Backpacking season is just about here. It is the end of March, and some of you are probably already out there. So I'm going to give you some backpacking tips for parents that are going out there with kids. First of all, let's talk gear. When it comes to kids' gear, you have to make sure that everything's really lightweight. Even your own gear, you need to make sure that it's lightweight. The lighter your gear is, the further you're going to be able to go, the faster you're going to be able to go, the more enjoyable it's going to be. Because the best way to get blisters and to be miserable is for all of you to have too much weight on your backs. Heavy gear is usually cheaper. Heavy gear is usually easier to find, easier to get. There's no wait times for it. You can just order it on Amazon, whatever. Some people think that buying cheap gear and upgrading your gear later is a good way to go. But if you think about it, if you're buying a cheap tent and you're buying cheap sleeping pads, you're buying cheap backpacks, that's hundreds of dollars that you could have put into really great pieces of gear. One thing I suggest is to, over the course of the whole winter time, every time I got paid, I just bought one more piece of gear. And by the time the summer rolled around, I had enough gear for us to go backpacking. You can even do that over a course of 2 years. Try and get your kids' sleeping bags when they're little and your kids' clothing, like their rain gear, secondhand. Your kids are going to grow out of them in a year or two anyway, so try and get them secondhand. Just make sure that you've tested all your gear on a day hike before you take it out in the backcountry. Make sure that your secondhand gear is still waterproof, etc. Or try and get them on sale in the off season. Try and get all your gear on sale in the off season. You got to be really careful with tents because tents don't really have an off season. Tents are kind of released and there's only so many released in a year. And then when they're gone, that's it. You can usually find the less popular sleeping pads on sale, the big brand sleeping pads like the Mountain Equipment Co-op VectairLTs. Other sleeping pads like the Nemo sleeping pads and the Neo Air sleeping pads, they go really fast. So when you see them, you almost have to buy them, and you almost have to buy them at full price. When your kids are little, it's easy to find secondhand sleeping bags. But when your kids are about the age of my kids, which is 9 and 11, you're going to want to buy them adult bags. And sleeping bags are a lot heavier than quilts. So I would go and get them some adult quilts, and that way you don't have to rebuy quilts as they grow. Down quilts are really great because they're a lot lighter than a sleeping bag, any sleeping bag. When the kids are little, the quilts are going to wrap around their entire body just like a sleeping bag anyway, so you don't have to worry about any drafts on the sides of the bags. Some good quilts that are reasonably priced are hammock gear quilts. We got the UGQ quilts. We absolutely love them. We got down quilts. You'll have to decide whether or not you want down versus synthetic because, of course, if your quilts get a little bit wet, then synthetic's going to keep your kid a lot warmer in the long run. However, synthetic is going to be heavier. Believe it or not, your kids can carry 10 pounds on their back, no problem. And then anything over and above their base weight would be just, their snacks for the day. They're not going to be able to help you with the food weight. So keep in mind that when you're going on a long trip, you're going to have to carry a lot more weight in food. As you eat it, of course, it's going to lighten up. But make sure that your kids are not carrying any more than, I'd say, 11 pounds if your kid is even 11 years old. My daughter carries a little bit more weight because she likes to bring a blanket with her that she needs to sleep with. My son just has a little stuffy, so it weighs a lot less. My daughter's got about a half a pound more than my son. You really need to keep the weight down on your kids' gear. Even for you, you need to make sure that you're buying lightweight gear for you and your partner because you're going to be carrying all the food. You're going to be carrying the tent. If you got 2 kids and 2 adults, then you're going to be carrying food for 4 people. If you got 1 adult and 5 kids, that's a lot of weight to put on one adult's back. Keep that in mind when you're packing for a backpacking trip. The most important pieces of gear to keep lightweight that you're going to want to spend the most money on as a parent is the sleeping pad, the sleeping bag or the quilt, and the tent and the backpack. I've got some examples here of some lightweight gear that we use for our kids. I've got the WAymark Mile here. This pack is made of EcoPack and it's really lightweight. It's also relatively waterproof or water resistant. There's a huge difference in pack weights out there between an ultralight pack like this and a kid's regular pack. Like if you go buy a kid's pack from MEC, Mountain Equipment Company, or you go buy a kid's pack from the North Face or any other pack like that, they're going to definitely be heavier than something that's ultralight. A kid's backpack is at least something that you can get secondhand if you can find them. Kids' backpacks don't need to have a ton of capacity. These here are only 28-liter capacity. That's all they need for all of their stuff, for all their clothes, for their sleeping pads, for their sleeping bags, for everything. I've got a really nice example of a sleeping pad here. This is the Mountain Equipment Co-op VectairLT. This sleeping pad is about $100 cheaper than the really expensive ultralight pads, and they're just about as light, and they are warmer than a lot of the ultralight pads and even more comfortable. These have baffling systems in them where the front baffle on the pad does not match up with the back baffle, so you never have any cold spots in the pad. So if the squishy baffle part is here on one side of the pad, it's not going to be exactly opposite on the other side of the pad. If it was exactly opposite, then the spaces in between the baffles would have a space on the other side as well, and that's where you can get some cold spots. But this pad doesn't do that, so it's really great. You can, of course, buy more ultralight pads that are more expensive. We've had really good luck with the Nemo pads. Of course, you'll save a lot more weight if you go that way, but you're also going to be spending a lot more money. We have Dyneema bags that we put all of our kids' gear in to keep everything dry. So we don't even bring these bags that came with the sleeping pads. We just take the sleeping pads and put them in their sack with their clothing. If you have a larger family or if you are 4 or more people, it's pretty hard to get really lightweight tents. One tent that we use, which we absolutely love, is this Big Agnes HVUL4 tent. This is a 4-man. There's tons of room in this tent for all of the kids plus the gear. If you wanted to keep your gear in the vestibules, and there are large vestibules in this, then you could even fit a 3rd kid at your feet with another smaller pad if you wanted to. So you could essentially get 5 people in this tent if you really needed to. Make sure all their gear is in waterproof roll top bags, but also put everything that's in their backpack inside a garbage bag or a trash compactor bag or a Nylaflume bag that you can buy online at some of the ultralight gear companies. Make sure you tie up the end of that Nylaflume bag so that there's no way that your kid's gear is going to get wet. Put your kids' clothes and sleeping bag in this because these are generally waterproof. I've got water bottle pockets on the front of my kids' packs, and I keep water in there for them with these soft Solomon flasks. We also have the Solomon filters in each and every person's bottles, and that way we don't have to stop a long time to filter water. We just scoop, put the cap on, screw it down, and you're ready to go. A great place for snacks for your kids is, of course, the front pockets on their backpack if they have hip belt pockets. If they don't have hip belt pockets on their packs, like my kids don't, I have bought these fanny packs that go around their waists. This is where their snacks go, as well as their little mini cameras that we have with them. I don't bring bowls for any of us when we're backpacking to keep the weight down. Each one of us has either a titanium pot or a titanium mug. Obviously, my husband and I are carrying pots that are a little bit bigger when we go with our kids because we have to boil more water for 4 people than 2. So we've each got a pot. We generally just pour the water into our freeze-dried meal bags and we eat them right out of the bags. Our kids, when we're making them Ichiban or mac and cheese or anything like that, we just use these mugs. These are relatively inexpensive. We got them off Amazon. They're called Boundless Voyage. They're a 450 milliliter titanium mug. These just fit nicely on the top of their packs, in the top snap, or they can fit right inside the front pockets of their packs. They've got lids, so they're really great to keep stuff nice and warm. If you don't want them to carry the lid, leave the lid at home. Of course, that'll save weight too. Make sure you get long-handled spoons. We've got some great long-handled spoons that are all different colors on Amazon. They come in packs of 2, and they're about $11 for a pack of 2. Everybody in the family has a different color of long-handled spoons so that they don't get mixed up. My picky kids won't eat using somebody else's spoon, so we make sure it's very obvious which spoon is theirs. When it comes to backpacking towels when you're going to lakes, we have a family of 4 and we generally only take 2 small-sized towels. 2 people can share a towel really easily. And lightweight backpacking towels dry so fast. If you hang them up in a tree, they're going to be dry the next day anyway. Tips. Hopefully these tips gave you some ideas. This is the kind of stuff that works for my family. I mean, every kid is individual. Every family is individual. These may or may not work for you, but hopefully they give you some ideas. If you learned anything new today or you liked this video, please make sure that you hit the like button and you subscribe so that you get to see the next videos coming out. Every time you hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps our channel. Thanks for sticking around and we'll see you in the next video.